All right, guys. So the last 4 days I have spent at the Vault Conference 2024 with Patrick Bet-David and the Valuetainment team. And in this video, I'm going to go over 6 categories. I'm going to rank them, and ultimately I'm going to give you my pluses and minuses from the event and whether or not you should attend next year or any of the following years after that. I'm going to release a much longer video where I go into the specifics, the tactics, and the strategies that I pulled out of it. This is going to be more high level. So if you're thinking about going, you want to recap from this year, this video is going to be for you. And if you want all of my notes that I took, which is probably a Harry Potter book in terms of notes, tactics, strategies, specifics, you can go ahead and comment the word notes below, drop your email, and I will push it out to you. So with that being said, let's get into the video. All right, so starting off this video, I want to go over the categories of the tickets that you can purchase, okay? There is general, there is platinum, then it's executive, there's founder, and there's CEO. These tickets range anywhere from $600 all the way up to $15,000. So this is a very expensive event depending on where you are going to land in terms of tickets. The next thing I want to say is before I get into this video, I've been going to all of the Valuetainment events. I've probably spent close to $500,000 in the last year and a half with this company, specifically at their events, their masterminds, their consulting. So I have a very in-depth experience and can talk very intimately about how these things run. And I've also spent quite a bit of money on every other event that you can think of, different groups, different consulting groups, different masterminds. So I have a very good perspective on what I feel like I should expect from these events, what I get from them, and what I don't get from them. So with that being said, I'm gonna go through a few different categories. I'm gonna go through the content, what I felt about the content. I'm gonna go through the speakers, what I felt about the speakers. We're gonna go through security because yeah, this event was, it felt like we were at the presidential election with the security that they were running. I'm gonna talk about how I felt leaving the event, and I'm gonna talk about the production of the event. So the first point that I wanna talk about is the actual content. So the content from this event, I went last year as a CEO, which is their top ticket. I went this year as a CEO. And the differences that you get with the CEO ticket is you get a 4-hour session, just you and the other CEOs, which I believe was right around 400 this year. I think last year it was like 150, 200. So it did double in size. I'm somebody that goes to these events and make sure I get my hand up, make sure that I get talking time and get my questions answered. So you do need to be aggressive in terms of being there and getting, if you want something specific. There's a lot of takeaways that you're going to take from other questions, but if you're somebody that wants to be talking and getting in front of Patrick, the team, and asking your questions, you do need to be a little bit aggressive about doing so. I would say the CEO session that you get with that ticket is absolutely hands down a massive value add, okay? Founder is about half the price. I think it's around 7,500, maybe it's 10 grand, somewhere between there. And the CEO ticket is 15,000. The CEO session and then the after party are the two differences between CEO and founder, as well as where you sit in the conference, okay? So overall content this year, it was very, very similar to what it was last year. However, this year going my second year, I was able to pull a lot more specifics from the content. One thing you have to understand about this event is it goes very in depth about how to master yourself, how to understand where you're at in business and as an executive or as an entrepreneur, a support staff, a sales rep, and it really paints a picture of how you can go to the next level. A lot of the tactics and strategies are very well broken down on expansion and growth, but it's not super specific to sales, marketing, operations. It kind of gives you a very good broad stroke across the top, and it allows you to really think through every single different piece of your business. So it will leave you with about 1 million different thoughts after every single day. They're very long days and the content is very, very dense. Fortunately, I think one of the things that they do extremely well with the content is they give you this 300-page book that you can come back to. I tore through this thing last year about 100 times after the event. I plan on doing the same this year, and for all of my team that came, they're leaving with a playbook that is very, very well done, okay? So the content is extremely well. And this is where I'm going to segue more into the speakers. I know if you've gone to events in the past, a lot of the times they headline a lot of speakers to get people there and they don't actually end up delivering much value, okay? The Vault Conference is something that I found to be very, very different. One, Patrick speaks probably about 5 to 8 hours every day. Yes, every single day. And he does a very, very good job of delivering the content inside this book, going off track, diving in depth to what he feels the audience needs. The other speakers that were there was one, his name is Max something. He was an AI, he is the AI of AI nerds. And it was more of a perspective around AI. And basically, I think the biggest thing I took from that talk was that what I feel like is going to happen in 10 years with AI, artificial intelligence, technology is likely to happen in the next year to 2 years. And that's what this guy was talking about. So it was a very thought-provoking talk. It wasn't very tactical. It wasn't in the weeds of AI, but it was a very, very good understanding of where AI is coming from and where it's going to in the next couple of years. The next speaker was Gudera, which if you don't know who that is, just look up Unreasonable Hospitality. He ran the #1 ranked restaurant in the world. And his talk was world class. Just the way that he delivered it, not even necessarily the content. This guy went up there, no deck, no notes, no script, and delivered probably one of the best talks that I've seen in a very long time, start to finish. There was no breaks, there was no uhs, no ums. It was delivered, and it was delivered powerfully. I think I got so much out of that talk this year that I didn't get last year, simply because I'm in a position now where the team and our business has grown enough to where I'm not 100% in the business. It's more of an 80-20 at this point. And we have a much stronger team, much stronger client base, to where a lot of the stuff that he talks about within Unreasonable Hospitality is something that we can actually start implementing. And I'm not saying you can't if you're early on, but for me, I was so in the weeds that it was hard to step out and do some of these things that he talks about, because I was just so ingrained in the business. So this year was a very, very different takeaway for me. I think a couple things we're gonna run at our offsite came from this talk. The next speaker was Tom Bizdoc. He went over raising capital, exiting businesses, when you should sell, how you should sell, pitch deck, and a whole bunch of stuff that pertains to really raising capital and exiting. For me, those talks are very valuable, but not necessarily in the realm of raising capital or exiting. For me, it's more thinking about how this applies to sales, how it applies to marketing, and just understanding kind of how in depth these different evaluations and building to sell, building to life is what he calls it, and how it can be done, right? So it's very foundational. And some pieces he does go very much into the weeds, but it's a very good talk. And yeah, Tom's always very tactical, so it's nice. It's a good mix up, right? The next speaker was The Rock. And I felt kind of conflicted listening to The Rock talk, to be completely honest. In the beginning, I felt like he was very media trained, so he was staying neutral on pretty much every single question that he got asked. I felt that he wasn't very open about answering really some of the questions that Patrick was asking him. I felt Patrick was asking really good questions that a lot of people had a lot of interest in understanding what Rock's perspective was. So I didn't really like the beginning of the conversation, to be completely honest with you guys. Towards the middle and the end, I think Patrick took a good turn into more of the Rock's story, and how he's built from where he was, $7 in his pocket to a multi-billionaire. And that story was, I think, a very good cherry on the whole conference, to leave people just very inspired, I would say, whether you're brand new to business or you've been around for a very long time. It was a very good talk, and it was interesting towards the end. I think in the beginning it was a little dry, just because I think The Rock has to be very careful about what he's saying, what kind of perspectives he takes or opinions he takes. And yeah, so moving along past that, obviously there was Patrick. Patrick does a very good job of keeping the energy up. He is very, very specific on how he wants the event to run, which leads me into the next piece, which is production and security. So production, 10 out of 10. From the venue to the stage to the layout to how they had everything set up, it was quite insane. I mean, all the way to the point where by the end of the event, they already had a full trailer for the event that they played at the event. It was just extremely well done. Their team knows exactly what they're doing. They're world class at the production side. I have absolutely nothing bad to say about the production. It was insane. Okay, so talking about the security. So that was one thing that I noticed about this event opposed to others. They spent a lot of money on security. They had SWAT teams walking around. They had private security everywhere. To get in and out of the event, you had to get scanned. You had to walk through a machine that they invested into. I mean, it was top notch. If you're worried about security or going to events like this where they do talk about politics and they do talk, not at the event, but they do have strong opinions in their business, stuff along those lines. There's a lot of very wealthy people there, billionaires in the audience, people that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars, everything in between. It is very, and when I say very, I mean extremely unlikely that anything could happen at an event like this. They know what they're doing. It's set up, and they spend a lot of time, I think, to prove a point that they are a very safe and secure event. So with all of that being said, going into my kind of final, just to wrap this video up, I think this environment is, in terms of networking, best event I've gone to. In terms of content, it's very good. I think it would be really nice to get a little bit more tactical. There was somebody that they brought up on stage, his name's Ben Pappas, and he was talking about specific things that Valuetainment and Bet David Consulting are doing with their systems, which I felt for me was one of the most valuable things. It was something that we were doing, but it wasn't something that we were doing quite at the level of what they were talking about. So I like tactics. I like specific tactics and very in-depth in the weeds stuff. And for me, there wasn't a ton of that at this event. So I think that's something that maybe could improve. I think if you are early on in your business, this is an event you need to go to earlier rather than later. In 2, 3, 4, 5 years, this event is going to be massive. So the earlier you do get into these events, the better, the more relationships you'll be able to build. One thing is if you're in the higher level ticket tiers, founder, CEO, you'll notice that the same people that go always come back. And there's a reason for that. That network up at the front of these ticket holders is insane. Okay. So in terms of how it made me feel, biggest takeaway I had from the event is everybody that I was around, I was sitting very front row, middle stage, around everybody who was who's who. And what I noticed for me is our team doesn't have a skill deficiency. We don't have a product or service deficiency. We have an attention and a discipline deficiency. So leaving that event, I felt very inspired to drive those certain principles and that culture in the business and get very, very aggressive at doing so. I also realized they talked a lot about an integrated business model with Valuetainment. So how all of their entities operate and benefit one another, and how one drives this, drives the other, drives the other. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that I need to do more of this. I need to get in front of the camera and I need to build an engine for the attention that's going to feed not just sales momentum, but the opportunities that we get from now and into the future. So with all of that being said, I spent $15,000 to be at this event. I spent a few $1,000s on the team to come with me. I did the same thing last year, and I will continue to do so next year. And overall, I think if you have the money, this is a great conference. If you're looking for a real network, a real content, very good people to get around, this is the event that you should absolutely be at. To wrap this video all the way up, I would say if I could give a score out of 5, this event is probably a 4.5. And the reason that I would say that is it is a pricey event, and it is definitely an environment where if you want to get into this network and you want to be around and you want to be included and very involved, it is a pay-to-play environment. Which is completely fine, and I understand, especially for the levels that they are taking them. But it is an expensive event, and you need to do your best to get the most out of it. Any event, any conference, any mastermind, any info product, anything that you invest into, it's up to you to get the most out of it. I will say, out of this event and out of the events that I've gone to, this is probably one of the best events in terms of the team is constantly trying to figure out how to help you get the most out of it. So with all of that being said, I think this event is a great investment for anybody that's new or very experienced. I think there's plenty of ticket levels that you can go into. If you're thinking about GA, just jump up the next level, maybe jump up 2 levels if you can't afford it. You're gonna get more out of the event. I think if you have a lot of success already, this is a network more so for you. And I think the content will help you rethink how your foundation's built as the company grows and what to do next. Okay, there's a lot of time spent on what to do next. Okay, your next 5 moves, what you should be setting up and preparing for, who you should hire next, how you need to adjust comp so you can scale, when's a good time to exit, how you should be preparing for exit, how to raise capital. There's a lot of content for people that are very, very far along. And I think if you're early on, hearing that content now rather than later is gonna be a massive plus for you. So with all of that being said, these are my thoughts. I think the event is extremely well worth it. I think if you can spend the money on the highest ticket that you feel comfortable with spending, and just understand that if you want to be fully involved and bought into this network and this group, it is a pay-to-play environment and you need to be able to spend the money to stay around. So with all that being said, that was my experience at Vault Conference 2024. I'll see you guys next year.